Hi everybody, so this video is going to go over 4.1 on Big Ideas Math and also 4.1 on Edgelastic. So I'm going to go through this whole assignment on Big Ideas Math, and then for the Edgelastic assignment I'm just going to go through the last 6 problems. The first bunch of problems on the Edgelastic assignment are all almost identical to the ones I'm about to go over here on Big Ideas Math. You do them all the exact same way, so those shouldn't be a problem when you get to that assignment. But the last few assignments, or last few problems on that are a little different. So I'm going to go over those as well on Edgelastic, but let's start off with this Big Ideas Math assignment. All right, so first of all, we have to look at this here. This here is your slope-intercept form equation. This is the equation that you are going to use on this entire assignment. Every answer to this whole assignment is going to be y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. So on all of these problems on this assignment, your answer is going to be y equals mx plus b. However, you are going to have to replace m with the slope and replace b with the y-intercept. So it's going to be y equals whatever number the slope is, x, plus whatever the y-intercept is. So for number 2 here, it says explain how you could use slope-intercept form, that's that equation I just showed you, to write an equation of a line given its slope and the y-intercept. So like I said, all you do is write that y equals mx plus b, and you substitute the slope for m, and then you substitute the y-intercept for b. So let's go ahead and look how that works. So I started off by just writing y equals mx plus b in this box. This is not the answer, but this is just where we start. For all of these, this is where we're going to start. Y equals mx plus b. And like we said up here, what we're going to do is substitute the slope for m. So it says the slope here is 2. So we're going to replace m with 2. And then it says the y-intercept is 9. So we're going to replace b, just like it says up here. We replace the y-intercept for b. So here where it says b, we're going to replace that with 9. And that is our answer here. Y equals 2x plus 9. So moving on to the next one here. So again, you can see we're starting with this mx plus b equation in the box. You don't have to do this part, you just have to write the answer in. But if this helps you, especially on these first few, just to kind of get started, you can certainly do that. So here it says the slope is 0. So we are going to replace the m here with 0. And then the y-intercept is 5, so we replace b with 5. So now, if you were to put this in y equals 0x plus 5, that will be counted as a correct answer. However, 0 times anything is just 0, and 0 plus 5 is just 5. So you really only have to write y equals 5 for number 4 here. You could write 0x plus 5, but it's not necessary. This will also be counted as a correct answer, just y equals 5. All right, so for the next one here, it says the slope is -3, so we can go ahead and replace m with -3. And here it says the y-intercept is 0, so we can go ahead and replace b with 0. But again, just like on this one up here, anything plus 0 is still just that number, so it doesn't change anything. So we could just get rid of the 0, and y equals -3x. Could be your answer. If you put in the plus 0, it's not going to mark it wrong, but all you need to write here is -3x. So if the y-intercept is 0, you don't have to put it in. All right, so on this next one here, it says the slope is -7, so we're going to go ahead and replace m with -7, and the y-intercept is 1, so we replace b with 1. All right, so on this next one, so now we have a fraction for our slope. This is 2 over 3, so that is what we replace m with, 2 over 3, so 2/3 x. And here it says -8 is the y-intercept. So now we actually have to take off the +2 and add -8. So our answer here is 2/3 x, because 2/3 is the slope, and then minus 8, because our y-intercept is -8. For our next one here, it's -3/4, -3/4, and then our y-intercept is -6, so -6. All right, so now we're going to move on to these. So here, instead of just telling us what the slope is and what the y-intercept is, they're going to show us this graph, and we need to, from the graph, figure out what the y-intercept and the slope are. So again, we are going to start off with this y equals mx plus b equation, that slope-intercept form. And again, we're just going to replace m with the slope and replace b with the y-intercept. So let's start with the y-intercept. Two ways to figure out what the y-intercept is. Number one, you could just look at the line and see where on the y-axis, remember y is the vertical axis, so where on the y-axis does this line cross? Well, it crosses right here, and this is at +2. So here's 0 on the y-axis, and we go up 1, 2. So that is where it is. Also, you can look at what the actual point is. This is point 0, 2. And any point where x equals 0, whatever y is, that is your y-intercept. So if you see a point where x equals 0, then whatever the y value is, that is your y-intercept. So here our y-intercept is going to be 2. So now we have to figure out what our slope is. So just a reminder, slope is rise over run. Slope is usually written as a fraction. So as rise, the top number is rise, that's whether we're going up or down. And then the bottom number is the run. It's whether we're going left or right, how many we're going left and right. So remember, rise over run. Good way to remember which one's on top and which one's on bottom. You have to rise before you can run. If you're sitting in a chair, you have to rise out of the chair before you can start running. So rise over run is our equation for this. All right, so let's take a look at this now to find our rise over run. So always start at whatever your point farther to the left is. It just makes it easier. So just start, whatever point is farther to the left, start at that one. So we're going to start right here. Then we're going to figure out how many times up do we have to go to get to the level of this point. And we only have to go up 1. So our top number in our slope is going to be 1. Now we have to see how far do we have to go right. 1, 2, 3. So 1 over 3. Our rise is 1, our run is 3. So our slope is 1 over 3x. So our equation, y equals 1/3 x plus 2. All right, moving on to the next one. Again, we're using this y equals mx plus b equation. So again, let's see at our y-intercept here. So where on the y-axis does this line cross? And that would be at 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be 3. Also, you can see 3 is paired up with 0 on the x. So if x value is 0, whatever your y is, that's your y-intercept. So it's going to be +3. Now we need to find our slope. So again, remember, rise over run. So the rise is actually, we're going down 1. Anytime you're going down, it is going to be a negative slope. So it's going to be -1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. So -1 over 4 will be our slope. So y equals -1/4 x plus 3 is our equation. All right, 2 more of these to do. Again, we could start with our y equals mx plus b. Here, the slope, the y-intercept here is 0. So you can see the number matched with 0 on the x is also 0. So again, you could type in 0, or you can just get rid of it completely. You don't have to write it in if it's 0. We could just have our slope x. So the fact that this is going down and to the right means it's going to be a negative slope. Anything going up to the right, like this next one, is going to be positive. This one was negative because it goes down to the right. This one also down to the right, so it's negative. Like I said before, start with the point farther to the left, so we're going to start here. Our rise is going to be negative 1, 2, 3, 4. So negative 4, and then our run is 1, 2, 3. So replace m with negative 4 over 3. So negative 4 over 3x is going to be our equation. Like I said, if you want to, you could say plus 0. Adding 0 to something doesn't change it. That's why we could just take it out completely, or you could write it in. Big Ideas Math will mark it correct either way. All right, next one here. I'm not going to throw in the y equals mx plus b. Let's just go from scratch here. So y equals, first let's find our slope. We're going up to the right, so we know it's going to be positive. And how many do we have to go up? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2 to the right. So we have a slope here of 4 over 2, like I said before. Slope is usually shown in fractions, but we do always like to reduce those fractions as much as we can. So 4 over 2 can actually be reduced to 2 over 1. And then 2 over 1 is really just the number 2. Any whole number as a fraction is just that number over 1. So if you see 2 over 1, you know it's going to be a rise of 2, a run of 1. But really, when we write it, we just write 2. You don't have to write 2 over 1. You can, it won't mark it wrong, but our slope here is just going to be 2x. And then we have to see our y-intercept. So our y-intercept, where this crosses, is right here. It's matched up with 0 as an x value is going to be negative 2. So 2x minus 2 is going to be our answer here. All right, so on this next one here, so before they were just telling us what the slope in the y-intercept was. On the last few that we did, they were showing us a graph. Now they're just going to give us 2 points. So when you don't have a graph to look at, you actually have to kind of do the math to figure out what your slope is. Now, slope is rise over run. It could also be shown as this equation here. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then we have our 2 points. So we need to label these points. We're going to call this one x1 and this one y1. And then we're going to call this one x2 and this one y2. Now we could have called this x2, y2, and this one x1, y1. It doesn't make a difference. You'll come out with the same answer either way. So now we need to plug these into this equation. So we have y2 minus y1. Well, y2 is 10 minus y1 is 1. Here x2 is 0 and x1 is 3. So here's our equation. Now we just have to do the math. 10 minus 1 is 9. And 0 minus 3 is negative 3. So this is our equation, 9 over negative 3. And that is going to reduce down to negative 3. I've mentioned before, all fractions are really just division problems. So if you want to reduce a fraction, you could always just put in your calculator 9 divided by negative 3. And if you get a whole number, you could just use that whole number. If you get a crazy decimal, then you're better off just using the fraction. More than likely, that means the fraction is already reduced down to what it can be. But negative 3 is the whole number for 9 over negative 3. So this is what we are going to use as our slope. So our slope here is going to be negative 3. Let me get in the box here. Negative 3x, and then plus or minus our y-intercept. Well, again, like I mentioned up here, your y-intercept is whatever y value is when x equals 0. So here x equals 0, so our y value is our y-intercept, so that means it's going to be plus 10. So negative 3x plus 10 is our answer for number 13. All right, so our next one here, again, we're just given points, negative 6 and 0, and then 0 and negative 24. So I put those here. We have them labeled x1, y1, x2, y2. So let's just plug them into our equation here. y2 is negative 24. And then y1 is 0. Then for the bottom, it's going to be x2, which is 0, minus x1, which is negative 6. All right, so this one part that gets a little confusing for some people when you minus a negative. Well, first of all, let's just do this top part. Negative 24 minus 0 is obviously just still negative 24 because subtracting 0 does not change anything. Our bottom number here, it's 0 minus negative 6. So anytime you see minus a negative, really that just becomes a plus. So you could, anytime you see minus a negative, just make it a plus. So 0 plus 6 is positive 6. So again, just like we have the last one, we have a fraction that can be simplified to a whole number. If you do in your calculator negative 24 divided by 6, you will get negative 4. I'm kind of running out of room over here, but negative 4 is going to be our slope. So let's go ahead and put that in. Negative 4x. And then again, where our x is 0, our y is the y-intercept. So negative 4x minus 24 is going to be our equation here. And just random side note, here we have y equals 0. So that means negative 6 is actually going to be our x-intercept on this graph. All right, for these next few here, we got this goofy f of x. So this is what this looks like. You'll see sometimes it'll say g of x or h of x. What letter they use right here doesn't matter. So this it gets confusing for a lot of kids. It's just a different way to give you the exact same information. So when you see f of x, just think of that as y. So what it's saying is y, what y equals, and they're going to replace the x here with whatever x equals. So if we look at this problem here, it says f of 0 equals 2. So that means for the first set of points here, for the first point, x is going to equal 0, and then y is going to equal 2. On our next one here, now x equals 2 and y equals 4. So just make sure you keep that in mind. It gets a little confusing, but that's all this means. So in parentheses is what your x value is, and then whatever that equals is going to be what your y value is. So here, again, we have y2 minus y1, which will be 4 minus 2. And then x2 minus x1, which is 2 minus 0. That's going to come out to 2 over 2. And any number over itself is just simply 1. So now when we're going to put this in here, you can say 1x, or you can just say x. When it's 1, you don't have to write it. It could just be x. And then our y-intercept here. So again, when x is 0, then y is 2. So x plus 2 is going to be our answer for that one. All right, so on this next one here, it says x equals 0 and y is 7. So we have 0 and 7 on our first point, and here x is 3 and y is 1. So let's do the math here. y2 is 1 minus y1 is 7. x2 is 3 minus x1 is 0. So here we have negative 6 over 3, which comes out to negative 2. So that's going to be our slope. So negative 2x. And where our x is 0, y is 7. So plus 7. All right, with negative number 21 here. So here we have x equals 4 and y equals negative 3. And x equals 0 and y equals negative 2. So that, of course, means negative 2 is going to be our y-intercept here. And let's find our slope. So y2 is negative 2 minus y1 is negative 3. So again, we're going to have a minus a negative. And remember, you just need to turn that into a plus. And then here we have x2 is 0 minus 4. So negative 2 plus 3 is just going to be 1. And then 0 minus 4 is negative 4. So negative 1/4 is going to be our slope here. So negative 1/4 x. Make sure when you're doing this, you do not put the x down here by the bottom number. If you did that on previous ones, make sure you're hitting the check answer button. Maybe you were hitting the check answer button, seeing it was being marked wrong, and you didn't know why. Well, this is one reason why the x go here, because the entire negative 1/4 is being multiplied by x. If you put it down here, that means 1 divided by 4 times x, and that's not what we're doing here. So here the x is 0, our y is -2, so negative 1/4 x minus 2 is our equation on this. All right, so again here, just another way to give us the exact same information. We're doing the same thing. We're still using that y equals mx plus b. And again, they have the f of x. And anytime you see f of x, just think of it, it's y. So f of x, whatever f of x equals, it's what y equals. So here they're giving us 3 points. Giving us 3 points is completely unnecessary. You only need 2 points to find the slope. So any 2 points, you can find the slope. Now we could choose any of these points here, any of the 2 out of the 3. But I would suggest using either the first 2 or the last 2. If you use the first one and the third one, then you're going to have to reduce. So it'd be easier if you just go first and second, or second and third. So let's use the first 2 here. So this first point here is 1 on the x and -1 on the y. So 1, 1, and -1. And then our other point here is 0 on the x and 1 on the y. So that means our y-intercept is, of course, going to be 1. So let's do the math here. 1 minus -1. Remember, that just means 1 plus 1. And then the bottom number is 0 minus 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2, and 0 minus 1 is -1, so -2 is going to be our slope, and we said 1 is our y-intercept, so our equation is -2x plus 1. All right, so last one here, and again, they're just giving us the exact same information they've been giving us this whole time, just giving it in a slightly different way. So let's erase this stuff here. And let's see here. So here we have 3 sets of points. Just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to say x1, y1 is this last point here, 0, 0. That way, we're not even actually subtracting anything. And x2, y2 is going to be these here. So -2 and -1. So now when we put these in, it's going to be y2 is -1 minus 0, and then -2 minus 0. So that's going to come out to -1 over -2. Now anytime your top and your bottom number are both negatives, it's going to end up being positive. Because again, if you put -1 divided by -2 in your calculator, it'll come out as positive 1/2. So anytime negative divided by negative will be a positive. So this actually ends up being positive 1/2 for the slope, and 0 is going to be our y-intercept. So our equation here is simply going to be 1/2 x. All right, so that is it for that assignment. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the edge elastic assignment. If I could find it here, here it is. So I already jumped up to number 16. 1 through 15 on this assignment are completely identical, the same types of problems that you just did in 4.1 on Big Ideas Math. So the rest of these are a little different, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do these. Now, I say they're a little different. They're not really all that different. Previously, we were looking at a graph, and we were writing the equation. Now, we are looking at the equation, and we are making the graph. So here's how you're going to do this. First of all, start with your y-intercept, because we're going to find that point first. Y-intercept is -2. So that means on the y-axis, -2 is going to be your first point. Now, Edge Elastic's just going to randomly throw another point on there, and then you're going to have to grab that point and just move it around to where you want it. So how do we figure out where this second point goes? Well, we use the slope. Again, remember, slope is rise over run. So the top number is how far we go up. The bottom number is how far we go to the right. So here, since it's positive, we're going up, always go to the right. So here it's 2 over 3. So take this point and go to your original point, and then you're going to go up 2 and over 1, 2, 3. So that is our answer there. Make sure you always remember to hit that check answer button just in case sometimes you're like, oh, I have to go over 3, and then you accidentally go over 4. And then you hit it and it's wrong. You're like, oh my God, how did I get that wrong? And then you see, oh, I went up 2 and over 4 instead of 3. So then you figure it out. If you can't figure it out, that's when you got to talk to me. Even if it's like 1 in the morning, just send me an email. If I'm awake, I'll email you back and let you know what you did wrong. If I'm not, I'll email you in the morning. As soon as I see that email, I will respond immediately. Any time of day, weekend, whatever, email me. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All right, let's move on. So that is 16. That's all you got to do there. Number 17. So we talked about before, if it's plus 0 for the y-intercept, you don't even have to write it. So that's why you don't even see plus or minus anything. So if it's just something x and then no plus or minus anything else, that means our y-intercept is 0. Now, any whole number is just that number over 1 as a fraction. So this is 5 over 1. So that means rise over run. We're going to rise 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and run 1. So that is going to be our answer there. Is it going to tell me I'm right? Check answer button is not quite working today for some reason. All right, there it goes. Now it told me I was right. All right, let's move on to 18. So again, on this one, it says plus 4 is your y-intercept. So that's where we're going to start. Plus 4 right here on the y-axis, positive 4. And then negative 1/3. So our rise is going to be negative 1. So that means we're going to go down. I said go down if it's negative, go up if it's positive, always go to the right. So we're going to go down since it's negative 1, and then right 1, 2, 3. And there is our answer to that. Number 19. I'm going to start going through these kind of fast just because I want to get this done before taking too long here. If I'm going way too fast for you, you could always just adjust the speed. There's a little gear in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. You hit it, knock it down to 0.75. I'll talk slower, but I'm going to start going through these kind of fast. So our plus 1 here is our y-intercept, so put a dot there. Our slope is 2 over 1. So that means we go up 2 because it's positive and over 1. And there is our answer. All right, for 20, it's plus 2. So we're going to go up 2 on the y-axis. That's our first dot. It's negative 4 over 1. So our top number is negative 4. So that means we go down 2, 3, 4. And then over 1, again, always go to the right. Up if it's positive, down if it's negative, always to the right. All right, 21, our slope, our y-intercept here is negative 5. You got to hit this little thing over here first, otherwise it won't let you make your dot. And then our slope is 1 over 3. 1 over 3 means up 1 and right 2, 3. So there's our answer to that. Number 22, negative 3, and then our slope is 2 over 3. 2 over 3 means a rise of 2 and a run of 3. It's positive. On this one, for some reason, that you have to actually have to put 2 dots. So we put our first dot. From this dot, we go up 2 and over 1, 2, 3. So that's going to be our second dot. Now it's going to make a line, and we are right on there. So one more here. I believe this is our last one. No, we got 2 more. So plus 4. So plus 4 there. It's negative 1/3. So we are going to be going down 1 and over 1, 2, 3. And then now we're on our last one, number 24. It is a negative 1 for our y-intercept. So on the y-axis, go to negative 1. Our slope is 4 over 5. So that's a rise of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, going up because it's positive. And then run of 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, make sure you're hitting the check answer button so you could see you didn't actually go 4 or 6 over. You have it correct. All right, so that's it. That's both those 4.1 assignments. One was on Big Ideas Math, one was on Edge Elastic. Make sure you get them both done. Make sure you're hitting that check answer button so you get them all right. And I mean, I just gave you all the answers, so no excuses here for not getting your assignments done, for not getting 100%. Get it done. Get a good grade in this class. Never have to take this class again. That's probably the best part about passing this class is that you don't have to retake it. This class is required for graduation. If you don't pass it, you do not graduate. You will continuously take it over and over and over and over and over again until you pass it. So just pass it this time so you'll never have to take it again. All right, I will see you all tomorrow.